Sometimes I talk about current events, sometimes I talk about internet culture. Today, I'm talking about one of my favorite childhood games that recently got a remake in cosplay. So, to be honest, I think I'm gonna take off the fang because it's really hard to talk in. Today, I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite childhood games, and that is Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door in Goombella cosplay. I don't have friends, so I have no one else to share these opinions with. As I was saying, Nintendo recently released a remake for Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, and the first rendition of the game was the second installment of the Paper Mario series and was originally released in 2004, a whole 20 years ago. The original game is near and dear to my heart, guys. Like, its importance to my development as an epic gamer cannot be overstated. I was just a wee elementary school brat when this game was first released, and I remember seeing the game on the shelf of my local Hollywood Video, and I thought, well, kinda looks interesting. I mean, I guess Yoshi's there, and he's like my favorite Mario character, so I guess it's worth playing. And boy, was I glad to have given it a chance, because I instantly fell in love with it. The premise is pretty basic. Peach gets herself into trouble, it's up to Mario to save her, Luigi's a dork, Bowser's hot. More specifically though, Peach invites Mario to this place called Roadport to help her search for some legendary treasure, and she sends him a treasure map. But by the time Mario gets there, Peach has already been kidnapped by a group of villains called the X-Nauts, so it's up to Mario to save Peach and use the treasure map to find these crystal stars, which will supposedly unlock the Thousand-Year Door that the legendary treasure resides behind. But this game, like its predecessor, has a neat gimmick where the entire universe is made out of paper, meaning Mario can do all sorts of cool paper things like turn into a boat or a plane or become as rail thin as middle school me wished I could have been. And sure, maybe based on everything I've said so far, maybe you're thinking, I don't see what's quite so special about this game. But honestly, I think most of the appeal, for me anyway, came from the charm of all the different characters. If you've never played this game before, the way the characters talk to you and interact with each other make the game feel so alive. And that felt so magical to me when I first played this game as a kid. Especially because before this, all I had played was either like Mario Party or Mario Kart games, which, as most people know, aren't really games for storytelling. Or I played Majora's Mask, which had great storytelling, but much of it went over my head as a kid. But Thousand-Year Door's world building and storytelling was fun and interesting, yet simple enough that I, as a young child, could understand and appreciate. In one of the earliest scenes of the game, you start with the standard ally explaining the premise to you shtick, but there's like an entirely separate conflict going on in the back, like literal gang violence. And that got me so intrigued with the gang politics that were happening in the city. And I say gang politics, but really all that amounted to was like, like really light turf wars, because this is a kid's game after all. But it got me so intrigued as a kid that I was like obsessed with the Robos gang, and I would draw so much fan art of them in like my school notebooks. And one of my Paper Mario crushes was this NPC whose name is Gus. Don't ask why, I don't quite understand it either. Maybe it's because I watched Furry Robin Hood growing up, I don't know. It was also the very first non-party Mario game where I got to play as Mario, Peach, and Bowser all in one game, and that shit was so fun to me. The Peach and Bowser portions of the game are pretty inconsequential, but that didn't stop me from making Peach take a shower every time I got to play as her. You can't help Mario save the world if you're gross and grimy, come on now. And besides that, in what other Mario game do I get to take a shower as Peach? I know a lot of people might interpret that as like pervy or something, but like seriously, I was just fascinated by the feature. And when I got to play as Bowser, I would just exhaust every character's dialogue while I played as him, just so I could absorb all of that goofy King Koopa shenanigans. Because again, whenever am I gonna encounter dialogue between characters while I'm playing as Bowser? It's so freaking cool. And that's another thing, the dialogue in this game. Almost every NPC has subtle changes to their dialogue as you progress through the story. And these changes occur after you complete every chapter of the story, and that goes on for like all 8 chapters of the story. And again, I know plenty of games do that, but it was the first game I had played as a kid that had that much continuity besides Majora's Mask. Like seriously, after every chapter, I spent hours as a kid just backtracking to see if all of the NPCs had something new to say. And the great thing is that they often did. And that just scratched this exploration itch in the back of my head that probably only neurodivergent children had. And then there's the character designs themselves, which for the most part are all quite unique and cute. Of course, you have repeat NPC designs for background characters whose main purpose really is just to make the world and cities seem more populated, but there are also plenty of uniquely designed NPCs, and even the repeat background NPCs have unique personality traits that still make them distinguishable from their physical doppelganger counterparts. For example, look at these guys. They look the same, right? But this one from Glitzville likes making puns and hanging out with his anxiety-ridden toad friend, and then this one here just likes trains and is incredibly alone. And look at all of Mario's partners in this game. All of them have banger character designs. Yes, that's right, even Flurries. She is a big, beautiful queen, and people gotta respect that. You got Koops over here with his band-aid and droopy eye telling you about just how much of a klutz he is, or possibly even how bullied he is in Petalsburg. You got your Yoshi companion who's got this tight little mohawk and like those Sonic-esque eyes to go along with his cool guy wrestler persona. But also he's in a little tiny diaper because he's like literally only a day old. But my personal favorite is your very first partner in the game, Goombella, who is obviously an archaeology major who really knows how to do her makeup. I mean, just look at that winged eyeliner. She is not playing. Goombella has one of like the cutest character designs in a Mario game in my opinion, hence why I'm going to cosplay her in the upcoming Anime Expo, which should be going on in the July 4th weekend, and also why I'm doing this cost test right now. 2 birds, 1 stone, I gotta work on this shit. Wow, I look so red. I think I look just about as pink as Goombella does in the game. But anyway, long-winded intro aside, the original Thousand Year Door had such a huge impact on me as a child, and really hammered in the concept that video games could be such a cool, immersive medium for fun storytelling, which is one of my favorite things about video games in the first place. And sure, again, while all the stuff in the game isn't exactly revolutionary now, to me it'll always be one of my childhood cornerstone games, alongside Majora's Mask, Kingdom Hearts 2, and Animal Crossing for the GameCube, the one where they're actually mean to you. So when I heard they were making a remake, I looked at my dwindling credit score, tossed back a buzzball, and said fuck it, and made my purchase on my now maxed out credit card. And I was super nervous because I'm a bit cynical when it comes to remakes and remasters and what have you. Because, you know, a good chunk of them are just cash grabs preying on nostalgia. And I was going to literally gouge out my own eyes if this turned out to be one of those cash grabs. But I am happy to report that as a long-standing Thousand Year Door fan, I absolutely love this remake. They did such a great job with it. And it seems as though most people who have played this game would agree. In fact, chances are, if you've stumbled upon this video, you probably already heard everything there is to say. But like, I'm gonna go ahead and not be normal about this game anyway. So this remake, which was released on May 23rd of this year, rebuilt the game from the ground up with a shiny new coat of paint. Like literally, almost all of the surfaces in this game are like shiny. By the way, I'm also going to talk about spoilers for this game, so if you would like to not hear that, go ahead and click off now. There are plenty of obvious environmental improvements that one would expect with like a remake. Graphics look crisper, and there is more texture, especially when it comes to the softer background elements, like carpet, or these wispy plants that are in the boggly woods. I don't know what those are. I love how the carpet in this game kind of looks like that sparkly confetti material. I don't know exactly what to call this, but it's like the stuff you find in Bingsu slime. But yes, obviously graphics are updated, but I think the graphical update I was really wowed by was the lighting. They did the lighting so well in this game. Like for example, look at the lighting here in Rogueport Inn. It's dim compared to its downstairs bar counterpart for any patrons who want to sleep, yet we get the little peaks of natural light from the windows with visible dust particles, and the soft glow from the lantern that stands beside the innkeeper's logbook. Another great example is Tech's Room, which you regularly enter as you play as Princess Peach. The lighting is incredibly bright in this room from all the computer screens, to the point where this room looks almost completely sterile, really hammering down that like lab theme that makes up the entirety of the X-Naught base, as well as contributing to Tech's general characterization as a good-natured computer who simply wants to bring the truth to light. Or even the scene at the end of the game where the Shadow Queen is like covering all of the worlds you visited in darkness. Her shadow hands make for a much more effective and creepy visual element compared to the effects in the original. It's also chef's kiss. The updated music was another treat. Many of the songs were redone to make the music sound even grander or bigger, or fit in more with the theme of the location or boss, updating the instrumentation and production of the tracks. So Bonetail no longer has the exact same battle theme as his younger sister Hooktail. Instead, in this remake, Bonetail's song is a remixed version of Hooktail's battle theme, increasing the intensity of the song to reflect the increased intensity of this very similar fight. The main music theme in Glitzville is now updated to contain more Eastern instrumentation to reflect the Eastern design of the city. Something I admittedly never noticed as a kid because I essentially equated the Glitz Pits to like American WWE. I mean, come on, they're selling like hot dogs out here for goodness sake. But now as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, look at that. They got bamboo on the table at that bar. Duh. And on top of updating the existing music, they added extra tracks too to better fit the tone of certain scenes or embellish character relationships. For example, as Tech sends Mario off to go save Princess Peach right before blowing up the X-Naut moon base, which will effectively kill him too, a sadder version of Peach's theme that you heard all throughout her storyline, which normally plays as she does quests with Tech, plays in the background to further show how Tech is really doing this with the mournful but loving conviction to save the woman he's only ever loved as a computer. And I can't believe they managed to make me tear up during this scene again. Editing trigger me here. First of all, sorry, I always just get really emotional over Tech. But also, I need to add that I also love the music that they added for the black chests, because I feel like the music really ties in thematically to what the chests actually are. For those of you who don't know, if you talk to Grifty on the rooftops of East Rogueport, one of his stories explained the origins of these chests, and you find out that these chests are actually the souls of the 4 heroes that originally defeated the Shadow Queen. And the reason why I think the music adds on to that is because when you first speak to the chests, it plays this really whimsical, kinda kooky music that sounds like it'd be the theme of an experienced adventurer in an RPG. Like, listen to these violins and flutes. You gotta admit, that's like some Ghibli Frieren type beat. And I feel like these would be the original themes of the 4 heroes when they were heroes. And then, interestingly enough, after you open the chests and they quote-unquote curse you, you get these scarier themes. But in the second theme, you can hear for a brief moment the motif from the Shadow Queen battle theme, which I believe is, again, a little nod to how the Shadow Queen cursed them to be in these black chests in the first place, and probably corrupted their personalities or memories, so that way they do think that they're evil spirits out here meant to curse you. Actually, you kind of get a lot of that in this new soundtrack, a lot of blending of motifs into other characters' songs, and I am here for it. One of my favorite examples of this is the Sublevel 3 theme in the Rogueport sewers. You get that signature Rogueport sewer theme, but this time with the addition of the main theme song with the strings. And I find it so thematically cool that they decided to add that into the area where you are closer to the 1,000-year door. It low-key tugged on my heartstrings the first time I heard it. Another example is Coop's and Koopiku's respective themes. They both consist of variations of the main Petalsburg theme, and Coop sounds so fun and triumphant, while Koopiku's sounds so sweet. Like seriously, her theme is like competition for Kyrie's theme from like Kingdom Hearts. Like, why does it sound so beautiful? Flurry's theme song doesn't have any mixed motifs in it or anything, but I love what they did with the added opera vocals before she realizes that her necklace has gone missing. And then with her main theme, they added this saxophone and moans in the background. I am so glad they did not neglect Mother. Okay, this one's a less major track, but I love how the music in Rogueport changes as you enter a shop, creating a more muted or stylized version of the area's soundtrack. It sounds more quaint, with the softer percussion instruments and flutes, yet still retains that signature Rogueport seediness with the bass and flute combo. Okay, I swear, last one, but I also love the variation of the main theme in Poshley Park Tower. It just sounds so classy. So much so that I would definitely overpay to experience an omelet here. In addition, they made a new battle theme for each area of the game, making the battle music in general sound much less repetitive than the original game, because unless you have the first strike badge equipped, you will be doing a lot of battling because, god, these enemies just wanna battle you all the time. My personal favorite is actually the battle theme in Far Outpost because it kind of sounds like some sort of winter themed 90s anime battle theme. I don't know, to me it's just very akin to like Evangelion, or even specifically like the Sailor Moon S movie. I don't know, it's just a vibe. And of course they've also added some quality of life adjustments, making traveling between worlds much easier by compiling all of the shortcut pipes into one room, which you can easily access from Rogueport's central square. Another addition is a new partner wheel that allows you to switch between partners much more easily. Now I know technically it's not that much faster, there's not really much of a button difference, and I think someone actually did do a test and found out that the original GameCube way is faster, but as someone else pointed out in the comments, I think it is faster for the casual player, i.e. me, because I don't know why, but as a kid I could not remember the GameCube shortcut controls for the life of me. So you know what, I like the partner wheel. But what really made this remake for me is that they improved upon almost all of the things I absolutely loved about the original game. Like I mentioned, I love the characters and the fun dialogue they had. And so this game goes ahead and adds some cute new expressions to enhance their dialogue and characterization. Look at my man Gus. He does this snide little giggle now whenever Mario gets hurt. Yeah, speaking of those new character expressions, let me just like go through my favorite ones real quick. I love how the squeaks in this game like throw down their hands now whenever they're talking about something like really disappointing, like, yeah buddy, I get it. They let Dupree, the Disco Dugan character who has like a crush on a new girl every chapter, like throw up a peace sign. It's blowing my mind. General White is depressed as f*** in this game. Apparently he was always depressed, but I guess that just went over my head as a kid. But now with added character expressions, adult me is not gonna miss that detail. They even made Lord Crump cute. Like, look at how he does this ooh woo shy girl pose disguised as Four Eyes in chapter 5. Like, are you kidding me? And of course, as one would expect, the developers gave some love to Mario and his partners as well. I mean, one of my favorite shots of him is him looking like Charlie Brown, staring up at the sky as he watches Hooktail fly into her castle. Obviously, all the girls' expressions are cute. I mean,
didn't know you could move like that. Two-step real smooth like that. All night get down like that. Turn around, make it bounce like that.
I love that when Miss Mouse does her iconic pose before she like hops away, she like essentially stretches herself up so tall that she looks like she has like a pair of shoujo legs. I love all of like Yoshi's expressions. I love this look especially when he's disappointed or sad because, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of May from Night in the Woods after she threw up at that forest party. Same person. Look at that. They are my faves. Hi, I'm back again. Not sure how I forgot to mention this in my original script, but one of the funniest things they added to this game is that you can hit the characters now. There are several reasons why that's cool, but the major one is that like it provides damage animations for practically all of the characters if any modders want to do like custom NPC battle mods. And of course the obvious, anytime a character annoys you, you can just hit him. Lord Crump, you don't think I know who you are? You're getting whacked. Flavio, I don't care how you pronounce his name. He's getting whacked. He should get whacked just for existing. It was also so funny to me that they added this reaction for the Peach fan Koopa, where like if you whack any of his Peach collectibles, he acts like you have physically hurt him. Again, fun feature, and I honestly just think it just adds so much to character too, on top of the other extra animations. And besides added character expressions, they also added new characters, though mostly ones to help any new players get accustomed to the game's challenges, and not really to add anything to the world building. I was a little disappointed that these characters didn't really have anything new to say, but yeah, they're mostly there to help you out if you're having a hard time like figuring out the battle system, or you know, if you need help with the side quests offered at the Trouble Center. Like I mentioned, these characters didn't really have an impact on me since I've already played this game and don't really need help figuring things out. However, I think childhood me would have really appreciated the addition of Ian Fumis if he had been part of the original release, because I know I struggled at times with some of those requests when I was that age. So, you know, while their addition doesn't really have an impact on me now, I do appreciate their inclusion in the game to make the game more accessible to younger kids or anyone who just like doesn't really have that natural understanding of certain video game logics. Oh wait, I can't remember if they're in the original game or not, but I think some new characters are these like stage ops shy guys who like fix the effects machines after they malfunction. I know they're super minor, but I just personally think they're such a great addition to the battle stage system. Look at how they're dressed in actual stage blacks that would have been expected of backstage workers. They are so professional, I love them. Now Prince Mush and Wacka are not new characters in this remake, but they are new bosses. You can actually fight the original Glitzville champion that you heard about in the original version of this game. And you can also now fight Wacka, who is pissed at you for repeatedly hitting him, rightfully so. And these two are such great additions for old fans, because I know that quite a few fans had wished for the ability to either challenge Prince Mush in the ring, or at least were curious to find out more about him after we had saved him from Grubba's wrestler sucker machine, instead of, you know, him just disappearing off the face of the planet after we saved him. And many people had been wanting to fight Wacka after his introduction in the very first Paper Mario game in 2000. But not only are they great just for being there and being optional bosses, they are also great because they are appropriately leveled for veteran fans. They are literally the hardest bosses in the game that require great skill in super guarding if you want to survive. I mean, of course, though, you could also circumvent this with like a shit ton of badges and a lot of life shrooms, but I mean, isn't it more fun to super guard? I don't know. And I feel like all of these additions are what differentiate this remake from other soulless cash grabs. Well, I mean, you know, it's Nintendo, so they're always going to be grabbing our cash, but they at least put the attention and care when creating this remake that honored the long-standing fans of this game, such as myself, all the while making it so much more accessible to new fans, which is something I wish all remakes would do. That being said though, I can't say I'm 100% on board with all of the changes they made, and I think this more so occurs with the sound design. In the original game, all of the dialogue made the same text noise regardless of which character was saying it, but now in this remake, each unique character's dialogue, aside from duplicate NPCs that is, have their own unique beepalese noises. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd say that all of these were very thoughtfully done, and actually the addition of the beepalese helped us figure out some other like context clues in terms of plot and characters. For example, now at the beginning of the game, there's not really any mystery regarding who was the person who gave Peach the map. We can tell from the beepalese that that was Beldum. Beldum. The transphobic one. In addition, when you go to the Trouble Center and before you find the hidden door, you can get a little sense of who is actually running the Trouble Center with the context clues from the beepalese. But that aside, the beepalese noises themselves typically draw direct inspiration or draw directly from the sound banks of the characters from previous games. For example, Peach's and Luigi's beepaleses sound very similar to how their characters would typically speak in other Mario games.
Take that! Here we go! Peachy!
All of the Koopas, Goombas, and Bob-ombs also produce beepalese noises that draw inspiration from the in-game noises that they'd make in other Mario games. Flurry especially, because she doesn't really have any character of her similar species or character design in general, has great beepalese. They provided her with a deeper beepalese than other female characters to really capture the feel of that upper-class ex-theater actress voice that you usually find in cartoons and anime. Here's like a comparison so you can see what I mean, because I know I don't explain myself well.
Oh, I'm sure she'd prefer Jasmine.
Grandma, it's me, Anastasia.
So those were all examples of good and what I think is accurate beepalese. However, I can't say I particularly agreed with the sound choice they went for Goombella's. They chose a rather high-pitched beepalese, going for a more feminine feel, when Goombella to me has always felt a little more like a tomboyish character. I was also quite confused by the beepalese choice for the Twilighters. Like, why do they sound like Sans Undertale? I don't know, it was so weird for me. They look like children to me, so it's just so weird that they have such a low register. And on top of that though, because the dialogue in this game is slower and can't be sped through by pressing B on your first time experiencing the dialogue, that makes annoying characters' beepalese much more difficult to power through. The character that I had the most grievances with this particular issue was Luigi. Throughout the game, each time you complete a chapter of your story, Luigi also completes a chapter of his own story off screen. But he is very eager to tell you about it. So if you talk to him, he'll do exactly just that. He will talk about it. And in the original game, I would just skip through the dialogue with the B button so I didn't have to read all that. But in this game though, if I talk to him, I have to listen to him tell his whole story with the drawn out, slow moving text that I cannot skip through and his annoying, lame ass Luigi voiced beepalese. Look, I don't hate Luigi. I'm just saying that his voice is the voice of someone I'd shove into a locker. You may be wondering, why don't you just not listen to his stories then? Just don't talk to him then if it's going to annoy you. And that is because I, as an obsessive player, cannot play a game without exhausting every character's dialogue. I don't know, it's just a compulsion for me. I feel itchy if I don't do that. There are also some music remakes throughout the game that I am like 50-50 on. And that's usually because the remake choices this game makes tends to think adding some rock style drums and guitar will enhance everything. And most of the time they're right, but you can't do that with everything. I think the song where this is the most egregious is the scene where everyone is cheering Mario on to defeat the Shadow Queen. The remake of this theme, again, features that new rock stylization that I mentioned earlier, but in turn, I feel like it kind of takes away from that sweet and sentimental emotional beats that the original version portrays with its stylization choices. Like, this new version is much more of a cheerful rally, whereas the older version is much more of a heartful one with its use of string instruments, and I personally prefer the latter. Of course though, I'm not saying that the new version is bad, and I do know some people do prefer the new version. Just one of those instances where I do not 100% agree though. This one's going to be pretty minor to most, but very major to me, and that's because I love the cooking element in this game, but I do not like what they did with Zest's song. The original song had all these little squeaks and all sorts of little sounds in it that made it sound so much more quirky and whimsical and charming. I don't know, the new version just sounds more polished to me, but in that sense it also lost some of its character. But at the same time, I'm also probably the only person who cares about Zest's cooking theme, so you know, whatever. But anyway, while I don't agree with all of the sound design choices, you know, my disagreements are pretty minor and don't really affect my overall feelings of the game. Like, aside from that, my only major grievance of this game, which is shared by most other people, is that the dialogue in this game can be pretty slow at times. I did find it a little weird though how this was a little inconsistent at times, because normally you can breeze through a character's dialogue by pressing B if you have already experienced it. However, I noticed that if a character has the same dialogue after a chapter ends, you cannot skip through it with the B button, even though you've already technically experienced that dialogue. The game counts it as new dialogue, even though it's not, and that is a little annoying. But again, that wasn't game ruining for me. My other grievance is that the game is a lot easier in this version, with the battle system often providing you with more handicaps, such as the smoke machine or other stage technicalities working more in your favor, the windows for blocks and super guards being wider, and an increased chance of items and a higher amount of coins being dropped after a battle. However, there are badges available to easily make the game much harder if you prefer that, and these new features are probably, again, just to increase the accessibility of the game. So you know what? I'm not going to be mad about it because I would love more TTYD fans. Anyway, at this point, I have beaten the game, but I haven't 100%ed it yet, which is something that I plan on doing. Overall, I would highly recommend this 2024 remake of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, especially if you are an old fan, and I'd recommend it to anyone who wants to try out like an entry-level RPG with cute characters, as long as you're not the type who gets like incredibly impatient about slower text blocks. The remake of this game, along with how Nintendo's been monitoring its success as well as what makes this game so beloved amongst fans, gives me hope that they will produce another Paper Mario game like this. I would love to see that. But anyway, that was my little rant about this remake. All in Goombella cosplay. I need to and fix her within the next week or so because AX is right around it. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you for listening to me rant. If you've already played this remake, what did you think of it? Do you think it improved upon the original game? Or do you actually disagree with a lot of what I've said and think it does not capture the spirit of the original? And if you haven't played neither the original nor the remake, what do you think? Do you think you try it out? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Let me check my Tattle Log. Oh,